Hey everybody, so I got a ton of emails to answer, and I'm going to attempt to answer some of them anyway. My top choices. So this is going to be a long form video. I got 30 minutes on the clock here, so let's just get to it. We're going to start off going back July. All right, so first thing, I'm not going to use real names because I'm not sure whether or not they'd want me to use their emails or not. Most don't care, but I always ask, or I just use no names. All right, here we go. Hey, Stef, quick question. This is somebody about my IWD course, my website course. As far as my progress, I've completed the HTML Foundations courses, and I'm making progress in the CSS course. Am I expected to watch all the instructional videos of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, follow along with the code, and then be able to slowly put together a modern website? Yes, in fact, when you get through the CSS course, the CSS Foundations course, you will have built a modern responsive website. And more importantly, you're going to understand the foundations of CSS, the logic, the thinking about the cascade and the different types of ways, the different selectors, all these different things, all these different principles in CSS and of course HTML. Once you have that, the rest comes easy. I am concerned I will forget chunks of this information as I keep learning and understanding new concepts. I have a slight coding experiences, so I feel comfortable learning, Googling, and so on as I build something. Am I ready to start applying this information to projects? First rule of software development, you are going to forget things. Second rule of software development, you are going to forget things. Third rule of software development, you're going to eat pizza. No, I'm just kidding. No, the third rule of software development is that you have to expect to keep Googling as you go. That's why the Lord Nerds invented Google and Stack Overflow, right? You forget. You don't know everything. In fact, what will happen is let's say you decide you do the web stack and your backend is Node.js, and you work on this for a year or so, and you become really good with Node.js, and then you move into Python, you start doing Python, maybe Python Web with Django, and 2 years passes, 3 years passes, and then you go back to Node, and you're going to forget a lot. Even though you knew it like the back of your hand before, you're going to forget because you're doing all this other stuff. So as a professional developer, it's par for the course that you're Googling. It's par for the course that you don't know everything as you go. So yeah, so to answer this guy's questions, keep doing the Studio Web courses. That's why there are hundreds and hundreds of code challenges and quiz questions. Every time you write a little quiz question, it reinforces the knowledge. Write code, very important. You're going to remember more quickly. Yeah, you will forget chunks. You just Google it. That's why what Google is invented. You guys are privileged these days in terms of the Google and the Stack Overflow. When I was coding in the 90s, Google wasn't really around. Well, wasn't around, I think, till 2000, I think it came out, 2001, where it really started doing something. Anyway, it's been a while. I used to have stacks of nerd books. So whenever I ran into a situation, wasn't sure how to handle it, the other search engines, you would search for anything in the past, and all you would get was pornography. You know, it's unbelievable. But this is pre-Google. So I would have stacks of nerd books. So I would be going through books. Okay, how do we do this? How do we do it? Now you just Google it. You know, boom, boom, boom. How do you do this? Blah, 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 Python. How do you do this? Blah, 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 Java. It's not that difficult. All right, so I've answered that question. So we'll delete that. Cool. I get this big, long list. Oh, my God. All right. Something about Python. Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm from Singapore. I know I was used to Java and am learning Python. Felt like entering a weird labyrinth sometimes. It felt like entering a weird labyrinth sometimes. So he's a Java guy learning Python, so it's a little bit different. I completed your Python course, much more confident to proceed forward with other learning for data analytics and machine learning, etc. It's definitely a challenge. I saw the statistics and the math. I took comp sci and did a psych degree afterwards, and all I remember was using SPSS. Yeah, as I said, the more you learn, the more you forget. That's okay, because once you know your foundations, the principles will guide you back to remembering what you need to remember very quickly. You have Google. Don't worry about it. So I decided to take steps one by one before crushing my brain out. That's the way to do it. Our nation is pushing for digitization, and kids at schools are learning Scratch and robotics under 11 years old. That's kind of learning how to code, not really. But anyway, I have conflicting thoughts on that, but since I have no children, no one's going to take my take anyhow. Here's this question. I find myself really bad at recursion. Is there a way to train up? Yeah. Write code that has a lot of recursion. Just keep doing it. I can understand loops, etc. Recursion sometimes I cannot handle it effectively in tech interviews. I know you said you were 200 or was it 800 plus years old. Depends how I feel. I love to dabble with alternatives and learning new health modalities. And I think you will love bentonite clay. Bentonite clay. Anyway, this is a guy from Singapore. I'll look up bentonite clay. Thanks for that. Yeah, so I think I've answered that question. I'm going to delete this one now. Here's a question. Stef, I'm doing your full stack course right now, and I really like it. I have a question that I really hope you can answer. I compete in MMA, and I know you're a lifelong martial artist yourself. What principles for success can be translated from MMA to coding so I could push forward with coding? Thanks for your help. This is from June 27th. So, consistency, give yourself rest periods, drink lots of water, be open to new ideas, new principles, new teachings, new schools, new styles. And those translate directly from MMA, right, and martial arts. And that will work wonders, I can guarantee it. Oh, by the way, I used to train in the same gym as Georges St. Pierre. I never did grappling with him, but I did spar him a couple of times boxing. He's a good guy. He's actually, he's as genuine and as nice a guy in real life as he seems on TV. I'm from Montreal. Anyway, there you go. All right, here's the email I got. The importance of a non-direct web stack language. I'm about to become a college student. I'm going to study computer science as my major. My family is decently well off, so I know that student loan debt is not going to affect me much. I'm also a practicing full stack web developer. That's cool. I've been writing code since the 6th grade, and I just graduated this year. So I know HTML, JavaScript, but my CSS needs work. I am not the most UI gifted guy. Yeah, you got to figure out where your gifts lie. You could be back-end, you could be front-end, etc. I know the C#.NET Core Stack very well for back-end using Microsoft SQL Server. I used to use that. I also know Mean Stack very well, Angular 2, not AngularJS. I have some pretty good React.js skills. I recently watched your video on 3 languages you put in the utmost importance in your courses: JavaScript, PHP, Python. JavaScript front-end, PHP back-end, Python for general-purpose language. Question. So here's my question. Would someone like me best have some skills in a language like Python, Kotlin, Java to get a good job out of college? Well, given your experience, you could probably get a good job now based on what you tell me. Remember, when people are looking to hire developers, first and foremost, they're looking for experience. That's why I say put up a good website, have a strong portfolio. If you have a degree, all the better. Certifications can help as well. But first and foremost, of course, is your track record. Learning these things, what I would say, I feel like companies are wanting applicants to know a whole slew of skills. Well, they'll list a bunch of stuff. The HR departments will list everything known to man and beast. But at the end of the day, there's certain things that they need for their work. So you just have to whittle through that bureaucracy. It just happens. I don't have any interest in freelancing since I am not the best self-leader. I work best when I am alone on a self-paced project or in a group on a time project. I don't know if my future degree will mean much. However, my parents are paying for my college tuition, so I feel it's worth a shot. Well, if your parents are willing to pay and it doesn't stress them out financially, you got to be mindful of your parents, be considerate of everybody around you. Then If you want to go work for larger organizations, you probably want to get into Kotlin. You want to get into Python. If you want to work on the enterprise web, it's Java or C#, but you know your C#. Kotlin is good for Android development, although I think that I think a lot of mobiles could be done more with the web stack and frameworks like Flutter. It's just, as I talked about this in other videos, you're in a very good position. Since you know C#, for you to jump to Java is pretty trivial, etc. I would, if the college thing is cool, then do the college thing and be mindful of the jobs you're looking at. What I would be doing now, since you already have the coding thing under control, I'd be looking and researching the job end of it, trying to get a feel and understanding how it's like to work for a large corporation or work for a smaller corporation, and try to determine that, because it's a different lifestyle. It's a totally different lifestyle. Some people love working in very large organizations, and you might, given what you told me. Some people like working in smaller, some people like freelancing, some people like starting their own thing. And so look around, try to get a feel for what it's like to work here, there, and there. Might want to do some stages. You have enough experience now that you can go do some stages. Go work for a company. Say, I want to go work. This is what I can do. Here's my resume. You'll get one, for sure. You may have to knock on a few doors, but persistence is king, right? So there you go. I live in Vienna, Austria, and I completed a technical high school a year ago. In school, I had programming lessons, but I did not learn very much. At that time, I was not very interested, and my grades were not too good. No, whatever. Now I am admitted to college in Vienna. In September, I will begin the college. But I started programming again in Java for my own, and I think that I will be able, in a couple of months, to get a job as a junior Java developer. That's great. I am now thinking about not starting the college and learning by myself until I get a job as a programmer. Would you tell me some benefits of college if there are? With my high school degree, I already have 2 interviews for a junior software developer, but I didn't get the job. The technical part of the interview was not so hard. They asked me questions like, what is a for loop? That's pretty simple. I'm surprised. Okay, let's say I will not go to college and start to work as a programmer. What advantages would I have with a bachelor's degree? I think that 2 to 3 years work experience are better than a bachelor's degree with some internship programs. Thanks for your advice. Well, it's a few things here. Some types of software development may require a degree down the road, especially if you want to work for larger corporations. You're in Vienna, assuming college is free or very, very inexpensive. You're quite young still. Do you have to pay bills if you're still living at home? Maybe what I would do if I were you, given that you don't have student loan debt to contend with, you're still quite young, you seem to be liking the programming, maybe you could take a half load of courses at school. So instead of 4 courses semester, whatever it is, take 2 and then work part-time at a company. And a lot of companies will work with you that way. So this way, you keep your feet in both opportunities, because maybe a year or 2 from now, you may decide, well, you know what? I want to go work for Microsoft, or I want to go work for Google, or I want to go work for a bank. I don't know. And you need a degree. The degree is just a door opener. So since you are young, there's no debt issue for you, I would say, start pursuing the degree. I went to university as well. I wasn't doing computer science, it was psychology. But I dropped out in year 2, I think it was. It's 200 years ago, so I forget when. It was year 2, I think. And the only reason I dropped out was 2 reasons. Number 1, because my business was growing. So I had a choice between my business or my degree. And number 2, I had health problems, which was affecting my GPA, my grade point average. So I decided to pull out. But what happens when you get into the work and you start making money, the chances of you going back to school 2 years from now, 3 years from now, very unlikely. So my suggestion to you, do half and half, as I suggest. Take a light workload in college, work part-time, get experience of both, and do it for like a year or two. A year or two is no big deal. At least you understand. If you get degree, you may never use the degree, but having it doesn't hurt. Although I think over time it's getting less and less valuable. But again, you're not like you're in the US where you're going to run up this crazy student loan debt. That's my advice. Hey, Stef, I have another question. Applying for a junior web job. So I was wondering, if I want to apply to some junior entry web developer positions, do you think having just a resume is good enough? No, I think you should have some site if you want to increase your chances. Especially web dev, you should be able to show them a site that you've put up that looks good and does something. Since it is entry level, or should I try to have a portfolio of any work I have done? You should try to have a portfolio. The more you can show, the more chances you're going to get the job. You may get the job with just a good resume and some certifications, that's for sure. But having a resume is a big help. Number 2, follow-up question, as he says. In the resume, should I put down my employment history even if I haven't had a job in web development? Yeah, if you can show that you work solidly in some place for like a year or two, so it shows that you're a consistent guy or somebody who's able to work and show up and be responsible, even if it's not related to coding, yeah, that is cool. Again, don't show you work for 1 month somewhere. They don't want to see that. They want to see somebody who's worked at least a year. 6 months, certain types of jobs. But yeah, if you can have somebody where you can put, especially like a year, you worked a year, solid year somewhere, yeah, that helps because it just shows that this guy can keep a job. That's all, right? Remember, a big part of what makes you somebody worth hiring is whether or not you're consistent, you've got a good work ethic, you're easy to get along with. So if they can see that you've held a job for like a year or so in the past, that implies all those things, which is very helpful. Question number 3. I'm pretty comfortable with HTML and CSS and have played with JS and PHP, more so JS. Do you think I can start applying around now to jobs and I'll get notice? So again, put up a resume, show what you can do, and apply to jobs that fall within the set of skills that you have. Soon as you go to full stack, soon as you go, whether it be Node.js in the backend or PHP or Python or whatever, as soon as you go there, the number of jobs that will be open to you will go from this to this, right? From this to this. With the exceptions, if you can become a UX, UI expert, then smart companies will recognize that talent and there's some high-paying work there. But UX, UI, though, super valuable, super valuable. And I've been doing this for 8,000 years. I'm telling you, good UI guys and UX guys are super valuable, super rare, super valuable. But the problem is a lot of companies don't recognize that unless they're mature people who've been in the industry and they recognize how important UI is. They are more and more these days. But anyway, so there you go. I think that answers the question. Personal question, please reply. Context. I am a software engineer with about 8 years experience. Lately, I have a bit of concern that I am not good enough. I hear this is common in the industry. It is. Don't worry about it. With 8 years experience, you're probably good enough. And no matter what I do, I am not improving. It's almost a case of learning new things and forgetting the old ones. Well, that's normal. That's why you concentrate on fundamentals. Got your fundamentals, you do the Google, the Stack Overflow, and you can do anything. I am constant in a circle of repeating learning. That's normal. Now, oh my God, they triggered Google. Shut up, Google. All right. I was wondering if software engineering is what I should be doing because I believe in focusing on what one is really good at as opposed to focusing on one's weakness. I agree with that 100%. I used to see that in martial arts, by the way. A lot of styles would say you have to balance your left and your right. And if you're not good at that, you should work on that. You work on your weaknesses a bit in the fight situation, so at least you can, you don't get totally trashed. But at the end of the day, you play to your strengths, right? Especially in software development. If you're really good at algorithms and AI, then stick to that. If you're really good at architecture, stick to that. If you're really good at UX, UI, stick to that. because otherwise you're just going to be mediocre, right? If you're bad at, let's say, if you're bad at math, if you're not a math guy, and you want to go into AI and machine learning where it's all about math, at best you're going to be a mediocre AI person. Don't go there. Go where you're good. Anyway, I'm wondering if there's any matrix I could use in determining whether I should continue with it as a career solely on analyzing it from a strengths and weakness perspectives. Yeah, just do it based on jobs. Do it based on jobs. Figure out what you like. Typically, if you like it, you're going to accelerate at it and look at the job opportunities. Software developers and nerds have a tendency to be myopic in their point of view about things. They tend to concentrate on just the tech end of it. Or if I learn this language, or if I learn just this framework, or if I learn in a bubble. And nerds will talk to each other and they'll say, oh no, this language is 10% better because it does this. First thing you do, after you got your foundation so you can evaluate things around you, then you look at the job opportunities, right? You look at the job opportunities. That's first and foremost. One thing that shocks people, not so much these days, at least less and less, is how prevalent PHP is, because people have been told for years that PHP is tremendous, terrible. Meanwhile, so many sites run on PHP. They're like scratching their heads. How does that make any sense? Well, if you actually look at the market and you understand how it's not just the technical aspects of a language or a framework or a technology that makes it day. It's a whole bunch of other things as well. And I'm not trashing PHP. I think technically it's fine. Yes, it has some bad legacy stuff in there. So does Java. You just don't touch that stuff. Anyway, yeah, so consider the job markets there. So he continues, but up until now, I still couldn't find an alternative to what I like to do. Perhaps I haven't looked close enough. Could be the case. Or maybe I'm too blinded by the remuneration, I guess by the pay. But overall, I think I love my job. That's good. But I am just not fast enough or capable of thinking on the fly as most developers can. Maybe you're better at architecture. You know, my strength as a developer was not to sit down and go and pile up code. My strength as a developer was architecture. I would put together really nice, clean, simple architectures, and then I would develop the apps methodically and at a normal pace, and then we had a very clean code base, very easy to update. And I had software that ran for many, many, many years because they were clean and well designed. I wasn't a guy who would sit down and you did after a while. If you concentrate on a particular thing, of course, it's going to start coming quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay, we're going to access the database again. Okay, we're going to validate this. We're going to apply it. Boom, boom. But you can't be expected to jump around. What you might be seeing is you're watching a developer just burn through code. And what you haven't seen is all the work they did for the last month or two or 3 months or 6 months or a year working with that technology specifically, so it's second nature for them now. I used to get that as well. I used to look at, when I was doing the web stack, which has all these layers to it, and it's pretty complex. So I used to look at C++ and I used to go, oh my God, that must be so complicated. Pointers and memory management, and yes, it is, but then C++ guys would come to the web stack and no, they didn't want to deal with all the layers. The complexity was in a different place. In terms of the code itself, it was simpler than C++ because you didn't have all pointers and junk, but the complexity was somewhere else. It was in the layering of the tech. Anyway, there you go. I would just look around, check out the job markets, figure out what you're going to do. Don't worry about having weaknesses here and there. That's just normal. Nobody knows everything. I literally, and it's not a joke, I've literally forgotten much more than I still remember today. It's no joke. Although I'll go back to it. Like I haven't looked at C# in years, but I could go back to C# and pick it up within a day or two, and I'd be back on the horse again. All right, that's it. I got less than 5 minutes left on this, so I hope I answered that question. Ciao.